In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
The serial killers and the cannibals.
These are their stories.
Hey y'all, it's Emma coming to you live from the General Kills factory, where we've just manufactured the Milwaukee Monster Mash, named after the Milwaukee Monster himself, Jeffrey Dahmer. It was inspired by him. It's actually his recipe that he conjured up. That's why we're calling him Master Chef. He obviously is very creative in what he does. It comes with new shapes so that you and the kids can have a great anatomy lesson while at the table. It'll save you a ton of time. You'll be the smartest one in the science class. There are not a lot of nutrition facts about the human body. No one really knows except for Jeffrey, and unfortunately, he did not leave those records behind. So we really don't know what you're consuming. These are Jeffrey's 17 victims. He actually had an 18th, but he survived, and that is how Jeffrey actually got caught, is because he escaped from him and went to the police and brought them back to Jeffrey's apartment, and they didn't believe him at first, but then they saw the photographs that Jeffrey would take of his victims' dead bodies. It was a lot of necrophilia. He would contort a lot of the bodies into just like bone-breaking positions, and would take pictures of them. Later they found that he had a few human heads, different human body parts in his fridge that he had been consuming. He kept skulls on his counter as trophies. He would paint some of the skulls. Also, one of his first victims, he beheaded him, cut off his genitals and his hands, and kept them as a keepsake in a jar. He would also put the decomposing bodies of his victims into a barrel of acid that he kept in the corner of his bedroom. He got a lot of complaints from neighbors, but he just put it off as meat that had gone bad, and I guess they believed him. So Jeffrey actually met a lot of his victims in gay bars. A lot of them were aspiring models, and he would offer to pay them for him to photograph them. And they assumed that this was going to help them jumpstart their modeling careers. And unfortunately, when they arrived at his apartment, he would drug, rape, and then kill them, often strangling them, sometimes drilling holes in their brains and pouring acid in and keeping them alive. That made them very submissive. They were unable to talk. It was essentially a paralytic, and that's how he really got off on hurting his victims. Another victim of Jeffrey's actually escaped as well. He was his final victim. He had handcuffed him and told him he was going to murder him. He was threatening him with a knife. The man was able to get him to calm down, and they were watching TV when the man punched him in the face and was able to escape. He went to the police and told them everything that was happening, that he was being threatened. And at first the police didn't believe him. So when they went back to Jeffrey's apartment to return him yet again, they found a bunch of photographs of different body parts, bodies being contortioned into really disturbing position. They also found photographs of one of Jeffrey's first victims. He had decapitated him. He had cut off his hands and his genitals and kept them as little keepsakes and trophies for what he had done. He kept them in jars to preserve them, and he had taken photos of them and with them. And finally, we have Jeffrey in high school. He was well known in his high school. He was pretty notorious. He did this stunt where he would often pretend to be having a seizure. He liked to get a rise out of people. He liked to make people laugh, and they would get off on and they were happy to be entertained by this weird and kind of disturbing act he would put on. In fact, he became so popular that if someone was able to pull off a practical joke perfectly, they would call it pulling it a Dahmer. Because he was just so good at what he did. He was so good at manipulating people and getting into people's heads. And lastly, we have this maze. Obviously, only two of his victims had escaped. Only one of them survived, unfortunately. And so we want to know, could you escape? Could you escape from the Milwaukee Monster? Let us know. It's fun for the whole family. You can have such a good time while you're sitting around eating breakfast. Very light-hearted activity, as you can tell. Eventually, when they caught on to what he was doing, he was sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences plus 70 years for all of the horrible and gruesome acts that he committed. While in jail, he only actually served 3 years of his sentence because he was killed by a fellow inmate in the bathroom. They had taken the bar you used to lift weights and had smashed him over the head with it. They say that he was very happy to die. He didn't really care about himself. He didn't really care about what happened to him. He really wanted to take the easy way out and die instead of have to rot in jail for the rest of his life and think about what he actually did, and basically didn't want to live a life without murdering people. We at General Kills hope you will consider the Milwaukee Monster Mash for your new everyday breakfast cereal. Yeah, thank you.